Racing IMSA Series live on Apex Racing TV. I am Sam Fitzpatrick. Alongside me this evening is Brad Clenk in the commentary box with Scott Newton on the cameras. We're here at the glorious Road America circuit in Wisconsin, of course, and we are in for a 45-minute race this evening. Brad, fantastic to have you along in the commentary box. I mean, this Road America circuit, it's good in every single car. We've seen great Mazda MX-5 races around here. We've seen great single seats races, but I think these multi-class events are the very top. It just works in these GT and prototype cars, and should be great fun for these drivers tonight.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for the intro there, Sam. It's great to be here again tonight after a week off last week for me, unfortunately. But yeah, what a week to come back to. Road America, fantastic track. Just that classic old school American track with just enough width to facilitate overtaking, but narrow enough to really present a difficult challenge to the drivers. And if you're offline, there's very little runoff areas. It's going to punish mistakes a lot, and the undulation just adds to that challenge. So it's always great to race here, and always great to watch racing here. So looking forward to it.
Absolutely long straights around this circuit. You can see one of them currently being tackled by Dylan Pereira going into turn 1 because you got that long pit straight. Then you kind of got this decent straight actually through turn 2, of course, and then you got that long run down into 6 as well. Of course, just a reminder, we've got the 3 classes tonight. We've got the C7DP cars. That's my favourite car in the entire game. Unfortunately, it doesn't get a whole lot of love. I'm not sure if we've actually got any of them in this. In fact, we've got one of them in this split. There was 2 splits, I believe, and only 1 DP. Very unfortunate that's a little bit underrepresented, because anyone who's tried it knows it is great fun, especially around this circuit. But we've also got the GTE and the GT3 cars. Of course, the GTE is a bit faster, a bit more downforce. And, well, we were just watching a GTE, now we're watching Scott Stevens in the Mercedes GT3 car. And, of course, they get 2 laps around this place. A little bit difficult, Brad, because this is a long circuit. You can't be hanging about too long. Otherwise, you may not get your 2 laps in the allotted 8 minutes.
Yeah, you don't want to be hanging around too long. Fortunately, it is a long track, so traffic's generally not too much of an issue when you have the open qualifying. Obviously, the officials, we've got the single car qualifying, so they can be a bit more relaxed tonight. But yeah, 8 minutes is not too long when you've got sort of a 2 minute plus 2 minute lap, depending on what class you're in. And it's really easy to get an off track in many places around this track. So yeah, you do have to be a little conservative, probably to just try and get a banker in first, and then maybe attack the second lap. So we'll see how they go. Times are looking pretty close at the top in GTE at the moment. We've had Sven Haas has just dipped into the 59s. We've got several drivers very close behind. And GT3, we've currently got Milan Radovic, I think. I'll struggle with some of these names. So
that's a good effort. I think we'll both struggle, tonight with some of those names. So personally, for someone from Norfolk in the UK, we don't really have any names other than the obvious ones such as Smith, and so yes, I will struggle, I'm sure. Lubermeyer Schreiwitz currently driving out there. That wasn't too bad enough. He is currently in 2nd place, and a couple of hundredths. In fact, I think he's just put in his 2 laps times, actually, Schreiwitz. And they were very consistent, only 3 100 between one another. Unfortunately, you can't just need 1 good lap, and unfortunately neither was good enough for pole position, which then Haas, car number 1, currently possesses. This is his 2nd lap. Can he go even faster? Crosses the... And yes, he can. In fact, he goes a couple of tenths faster, so he's got quite a healthy margin now in qualifying. 3.5 tenths of a second, pretty much. Everyone is going back to the pits, and here we are then. Oh, we have the fantastic full formation lap here at Road America. It's stuff of legends. Well, at least we're not at Road America where we've got the full formation lap. Unfortunately today, that is the case. But on pole position then, well, I guess hope Brian Beers in the DP will take the start. He didn't set a qualifying time, but he will lead the field should he take the grid. And then in the GTEs, we've got Sven Haas on pole position. Alongside him is Lubomir Schreiber, and then it's Adam Pilo, Hakan Guvan, Andreas Smik, Dylan Pereira, Javi Villa, Ruben Denker, Christophe Bouquet, Tony Surral, Carlos Barreto, Sean Canavan, Joe Holte, Daniel Smith, Alexei Selenev, Yanis Flipovic, Marco Weaver, Jose Rodriguez, David Gamez, and Jordi Aguirre Rivera. Also, Yasmin Yali, Neil Pearson, and Adalton Morea did not set qualifying times. Hopefully, they'll take the start. Quite easy to pick up a 1x and 1 for your qualifying laps, of course, Vante. So expect them to take the starts. And then in the GT3s, we've got Milan Radovojic on pole position. Alongside him is Scott Stevens. And then behind that is Mitchell McLeod, Bernd Hal Beeson, Jacques Swainpool, Andrew Dyson, Mark Hutchinson, Jack Flood, and Bradley Anderson rounding out the field. There should be 5 cars on this grid as they all just line up on the grid right now.
Yes, well done there, Sam. I'll let you take a breath after all that. Yeah, as you can see, a very multicultural grid, despite being our sort of Australian, New Zealand strength of field time slot. But with it being morning in the Southern Hemisphere, we do get a lot of people showing up, which is good. And here we go. Let's see if they can all keep out of trouble on this pace lap. Everyone seems to be pretty well behaved getting away there, so
yeah, always quite easy to sorry.
Unfortunately, it doesn't look like we've had the Daytona prototype line up to take the start.
Yeah, of course, even if Beers does take the start, he won't gain any I rating. He won't lose any I rating because he's the only car out there. Could gain a bit of safety rating. And this track, it's possible to gain a bit of safety rating as well. So surprising that he didn't take the start. A few drivers actually taking single file through these first few corners. Very, very measured from these guys. Very mature, clearly, for this formation lap. But Sven Haas has got a fantastic opportunity. But I guess it's going to be difficult, Brad, on this opening lap for Haas, because if you're right up front, you're a bit of a sitting duck to the others, because you got those 2 very long straights to start out the race, where it's quite possible for the car in second place to slipstream straight past you.
Yeah, it definitely makes the importance of sort of controlling the rolling start as best you can, and really try to get the jump over the opponents, because they've got that lengthy straight to try and slipstream into one. So we'll probably see him try to get a jump and move to the inside quite early to force anyone with a slipstream to go around the outside. Probably expecting to try and sort of hold that line through into the first couple of sequence of corners. But yeah, there's multiple slipstream opportunities with the Moraine sweeper, sweep down into 5. Yeah, that's why this track's so exciting to race at and to watch, because it really does provide multiple overtaking opportunities despite it being quite narrow.
Yeah, definitely. And some of these kind of pinch points, particularly around the middle part of the lap, can cause quite a few incidents, of course, going through the carousel as well. And yeah, about halfway through this. What about the incidents? Do you expect 17 incident limit to be much of an issue tonight, or do you reckon that these drivers will get to the end of the race without too much risk of getting disqualified?
If you can avoid car contact, I think you're pretty safe. But yeah, if you get it 1 or 2 4x'd, there's definitely the opportunity for disqualification. It's a few corners here where you can pick up the 1-tines quite easily. But yeah, I can't believe how well behaved everyone is on this pace lap here. It's nice and steady. There hasn't been anyone sort of weaving erratically to try and generate tyre temp or anything either, which can often cause troubles on these laps. And it's not particularly warm, so the guys most of them must be happy to start with the tyres a little cooler and not take too much of them out of them early in the race.
Yeah, 5:30 in the evening, this race commencing, and it's currently 32 degrees. I'm sure you've already seen it on your screens this evening. And yeah, about to get underway then. We've got on the pole position, of course, Sven Harter, pole position by about 0.4 of a second. It was relatively comfortable, but we have already talked about the possible ambush going into turn 1. Also watch out for Milan Radovic a little bit further down the field at the front of the GT3 class. But here we are then, 45 minutes of racing at Road America is about to get underway, and we are away in the GTE class. Going very early there was Hart, so he might leave himself a little bit vulnerable. Into the slipstream goes Schreibitz, looking to the inside now, and this is going to be an ambitious move going into turn 1. Not much of a braking zone for these GTE cars with all their downforce and just about keeping the lead there. Great start for Goober, gains a couple of places. Oh, Java straight off the circuit. I think that's James straight off as we look to the front of GT3s, and it's Stevens in fact taking the lead off Radovic, and also ahead of McLeod and Hal Peterson as well. So great start for Scott Stevens. Could still be under pressure, so not too far behind the GTEs just ahead.
Yeah, interesting start. It's reasonably well behaved. I was quite surprised we didn't see Haas come across to the inside to protect that at the start, but looking by the liveries, he may have had a teammate there to help him out at the start there. The GT3 field's dominated by Mercedes. There's only a single Audi out here tonight, and the rest are all Mercedes AMGs, so that should be a closely fought battle, all in the same car.
Absolutely.
So back at the front. Looks like Haas has lost his rear gunner. We've had Guzman in the BMW being able to make a move for P2, so Haas is going to have to keep an eye on the mirrors, try and build up a little gap if he can. The BMW is strong in a straight line, similar to the Ferrari, so it'll be interesting to see if he closes here.
Yeah, as long as he stays in the slipstream range, I think Guzman will be quite pleased. Keeps himself in with a chance at least. Of course, these guys have to make a pit stop in this race some point during the 45 minutes. Expect that to around the maybe 30-35 minute mark when they'll all come into the pits. And Gubin only 6 tenths of a second behind, and he will just gain a little bit. Haas trying to break the just ever so slightly down the starts of that pit straight, but gaining is Gubin, and he gains a couple of tenths of a second down this pit straight. Just drags him a little bit closer within touch in case the race leader makes a mistake. Radovic has retaken the lead, by the way, past Scott Stevens in the GT3 class. So that's a very important move, and in fact Milan has already pulled about a 1 second lead as well. So very impressive there for the car number 4. Lost the lead going into turn 1, but has taken it back and is now pulling it away at the lead of GT3 field.
Yeah, it's we've got a move down the inside here into 5. That's where it looks computed. The driver in the Ford there, I think that's okay. Left plenty of room, didn't really argue that too much early in the race. It's good to see the Ford being represented again with the BOP adjustments this season. Seems to be becoming more popular again, which is good, particularly at high-speed tracks. We've got all 4 marks represented in the top 10 in GTE at the moment, so that's always good to see, a bit of variety.
Yeah,
coming out of the carousel there, we've got a bit of a gaggle of cars in front. Some people trying to put up some moves down into Canada corner with the slipstream, perhaps. See how that shakes out.
Yeah, one of the best opportunities made, but as you were saying earlier on, some really narrow parts of this track, and Canada corner is certainly one of them. Also, the pink just prior to that almost flat out in the GTE cars, but I think on full fuel with the country a little bit warm as it is, may just have to lift off ever so slightly, almost side by side between Rodriguez and Alton, who's had a little bit of a poor start. Alton down 4 places. In fact, down 5 places from his start when you take into consideration the DP who went off as got another driver off. In fact, not quite sure who that was. Fortunately, staying ahead of these guys is very slow, and Rodriguez does make up a move right there. And that Porsche, after falling off the circuit, really is sitting duck down this very long straight and loses a couple of positions due to that mistake.
Yeah, it's a crucial corner of the last turn here, because the run on the straight is so important with such a long run, and also the incline as you come up to the line. You need all the momentum you can get coming onto the straight, and perfect demonstration of why it's so important there with him losing several positions because of that. It looks like he's starting to recover a little bit there. The Porsche. Oh, looks like we've got contact there. Is that Dylan Pereira? Is that? He's not going to be too happy with that. It's pretty much a one line through there. It's very, very rare you'll see a move made there, or a successful move made there. So, yeah, be interested to see that again, to see what was happening exactly.
Yeah, first glance that looked like a bit of net code, which was very understandable in a split like this, where you got drivers from all corners of the globe, and didn't seem to make any proper contact, but yeah, just spinning around, losing a lot of time. Fortunately, didn't get affected by anyone else. A little bit wide there as well. So here was then so already losing the car then was the BMW, and yeah, that was a lot of net code, I believe at least. And fortunately, a couple of the other drivers getting through. Had to wait a little while. De Pereira loses probably about 8 positions or so, but back on his way without too much damage.
We've got Ford here trying to get the slipstream. He's tucked back in behind the Ferrari though. Couldn't quite get the move done. It's been pretty well behaved really, the opening phase of the race. Hasn't been too much drama. The guys in the top split here are kind of focused on the race being 45 minutes and just try and make sure that they're still in with a shot when it comes around to the pit stop cycle. Some people might be trying to save a bit of fuel to minimise their stationary time as well.
Yeah, that's sometimes all you can really do in these stages when maybe you're bottled up behind another driver. You take further, so you've got the pace to pull away from it, so you just have to lift and coast and hopefully get an extra lap of fuel available. As we've got a GTE round, that is Filipovic's, apologies, jumping down the order, so actually in amongst the GT3 cars now, so that's really disappointing for Yanis down the order now. And that's going to be a long drive back for the car number 26. Of course, the lower the number, the higher I rating is. So for car number 1, such as Sven Hasse, the highest I rating in the entirety of this field, which is 4,900. I'm not sure. No, higher than that. About 6,000. 9,000. Apologies.
So yes, Sven Haas is over 9,000, so
not bad.
yeah, we would expect him to be definitely towards the pointy end of the field with that I rating.
I mean,
just looking through the.
So I was just going to say, it's being kept honest by Guben, but I think Guben is car number 2, so probably got about 7k himself.
Yes, I'm not sure what the SOF is, but there's definitely some highly ranked drivers in here, which is always good to see. I was just looking through the field on the time screen. We've got Marco Weaver's down in 12th. He's had a good start to the race. He's up 6 positions, and Selznev in the Ferrari just ahead of him. He's up 5 as well, so they've been able to pick their way through the field a little bit since the start. And Neil Pearson down in 16. He's made 7 positions. So yeah, there's been a few drivers we know to get their head down in the early phase of the race and improve their positions.
Ooh, contact. Barretto falling off the circuit there for turn 7. Loses a couple of places to Sorrell and Sellers now. Bouquet, of course, was the Joe who made the contact. Oh, more contact and into the wall. There is Sorrell. So really kicking off in that 4-way battle for, I think, 8th place.
Well, there's more contact. That was looking awkward heading down. Yes, and no. Well, we put the curse on them when we said they'd been well behaved. This is what they've done, just to make sure we weren't right for very long.
Oh, more contact to be the king, and that's going to be into the wall for Sorrell again. So he rejoined that battle and somehow the race leader, Radivojevic, has just about avoided. That was great evasive action to the king as the GTE came back onto the circuit. So McLeod now trying to move up into 2nd place past Stevens. He goes nicely done into counter corner. That was very simple. They have caught up on the leader a little bit, but Milan there was very nearly out of the race as Sorrell came back onto the circuit.
Yeah, that was a very busy lap there. So Tony Sorrell was the Porsche driver there who had issue heading down into 5 earlier on the lap, and then going through the kink. I think he might have picked up a bit of damage in that first incident, and he had to lift going through the kink, which kind of bottled the cars up, caused that second scenario. So probably not much you could do about it, but yeah, it's always a bit awkward when you're trying to recover from an incident, and then you have other cars coming through quite rapidly on you. You can see there's a bit of damage there on screen. He's decided not to pit and continued around. And you can see we've got these two, looks like a couple of pairs of GT3 cars battling here. There's 2 that's just heading up into 7 now at the crest, and then the 2 we're watching here. Swinespole is trying to hang on to this 4th position. He's doing a good job of it at the moment.
Yeah, Dyson's getting quite a few places so far in this race. I should say that actually. I think he's gained 2 places so far in this event. So nicely done there from Andrew. And they're only just ahead of Bird Halabeason as well behind. Kind of calm down in the GTEs, by the way. We had a couple of big packs, but mainly spread out, certainly for the top positions, with Haas 1 second ahead of Guven. And on that last lap, Haas actually pulled away by 0.3 of a second, so crucially, just dragging his Ferrari out of slipstream range. Guven needs a good lap here just to get back within about 0.8 of a second so he can be pulled along. But that intensity that he's having to keep up right now, just to keep up with the race leader, is really going to be very difficult. They've got Adam Pilo in 3rd place. He got past Schreibitz a few laps ago, I believe. I think Schreibitz may have made a mistake as well soon after that, and he's now falling back. You can see how far the gap between 3rd and 4th positions is. It looks more likely that Schmidt will get past Schreibitz quite soon. Using base for Schmidt so far, up 1 place, and then it's Javi Villa in 6th place. So they're all kind of like 1 or 2 seconds between one another, but right now no one really going to blow. Closest batter in the GTE field, I believe, is Marco Weaver, who's done very well so far. 3 places battling Carlos Barretto, who we saw spun round at this very corner a couple of laps ago.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if Adam Pillow in 3rd there will be able to close up on the front 2. In the AMF series last week at this track, we did see the Ford was quite strong. That series does run a set of fixed setups though, a little different from this being open, but yeah, the Ford was really strong at this track, so looks like he is slowly closing that gap, so sort of keep an eye on that, see how that eventuates. These two here locked into what looks like to be a good battle. You see Carlos has just struggled a bit on the exit of Canada corner there. It's made him a little vulnerable, but it is really hard to pass here. He's going to need a great exit coming onto the straight if he's going to defend this. Just see how we go. And he looks like he's got off the corner quite well. That's alright, it's Marco Weaver in front that we're looking at in the Porsche. Just had that around the other way, sorry.
Yeah, great. So just getting a little bit of a slide on coming out of the final corner, just compromises run down that pit straight. Always love that turn one. It's quite an underrated corner, I think, but I mean, particularly in like the DP or the GTE, it's difficult to carry. It's difficult to get it perfect. You always feel that you can go a little bit faster the next time round. But it's absolutely great turn cross. If you make a mistake, you are heading straight into the wall, of course. See Brietto really not making much of an impression with the slipstream. It's not particularly powerful in these GT cars. It's even less powerful in the GT3 cars when they, I think, took quite a bit of it away about 3 years ago, I seem to remember. They kind of reduced the slipstream effect significantly for the GT cars. Anyone who's faced the Porsche Cup car knows that that car seems to have the absolute smallest slipstream effect in all of iRacing, pretty much. As Brietto just runs a little bit wide after putting a lot of pressure on the car head, just relinquishing that right now. Bouquet and Seleznev are getting a little bit closer as well, further up the order. As off the circuit, that must be Daniel Smith, I imagine. There he is.
Yes, and where that's happened, just from the exit of the corner just before the carousel there, it's so common to see cars go off and hit the wall on the inside there. That's why those tyres are strategically placed right there, and yeah, that's exactly what he's done. It can be hard to stop the rotation of the car there if you get a little bit too wide. But fair play to him, he's making sure he's rejoining safely there, not causing the end to anyone else's race, which is always good to see.
Was running in 15th place was Smith, but now in amongst the GT3 cars is quite a difficulty in these types of races where the GT3s and the GTEs are so close. If you have a spin like that in the GTs, you can quite easily be amongst the GT3 cars very quickly. And the DP, in fact, as well, not that much faster as well. So if you make a mistake in that class, then you can get involved in the GTEs. Radi Bojovic trying to catch up to a caravan now. He was 1 second faster on that last lap, was Milan. So we can see how much of a fight the GTE puts up. Should have better top end speed should the GT3, as I think he's going to go straight past. So very gentlemanly. Thanks to Caravan there for not making that any more difficult than it had to be. And Radi Jovic, still leader of the GT3 class.
Yeah, he's built up about 4.5 second lead now, so pretty comfortable. It's a nice opening stint to the race for him, but there is a bit of a battle behind. We've got McLeod and Stevens quite close there, and then there's a string of 3 cars. Swinepole now has Halverson and Dyson, all quite close company behind.
Yeah, Halverson must have got past Dyson in these last couple of laps, because we were watching Dyson very close to Swinepole earlier on. But seemingly it's maybe Halverson with the momentum out of those 3 drives. We can see how he's now right on the tail of the Mercedes just ahead. Just behind these guys is Daniel Smith after that. Sorry, not Daniel Smith. Yanis Filipovic, who had that spin earlier on. But Halverson unable to make a move at the moment, but going to have a fantastic chance perhaps down the pit straight, as if about to move on to lap 10 of this race. And whenabouts do these drivers tend to come into the pits, Brad, for this race?
We'll probably expect to see starts quite soon, actually. So we've actually got, looks like Swinepole has actually just come into the lane now in the GT3. Ford is known to have quite good fuel mileage, so you may see the Ford drivers run a little longer than the others. In the most recent build, the Porsche did get a little bit of a adjustment in its fuel consumption, so you might see them being able to go a little longer than they've done previously as well. But such a long lap here, I can't imagine they'd be able to get an extra lap based on what it was previously at shorter tracks perhaps. But yeah, this is quite a long lap here, so I think they'll be probably in the lane in the next probably 5 minutes or so. We'll see a lot of the GTE field filter through.
Of course, quite a high fuel consumption circuit this as well. You can see all these long straights, and certainly compared to somewhere like I think Mid-Ohio is pretty much the least fuel dependent circuit. In fact, I think I've seen in the past in this series drivers being able to do a no stop around Mid-Ohio. Of course, iRacing doesn't force you to have a pit stop. It's just very much recommended. Otherwise, you will probably struggle to be around a circuit like this. Via sitting ahead currently of Dinka, so these two getting a little bit closer on that last lap. Dinka closer by half a second. Sellers have also got past Bouquet, I believe, on that last lap. And now half a second between those two. They are 7 seconds behind these guys. You might just see them slightly in the distance. You probably just saw a small glimpse of them coming through turn 3 in the background there. Via under pressure, going to have to put his car in the middle. So it's so narrow, of course, down into this turn 6 or turn 5. Turn 6, I think it is.
Yeah, it's a little bit deceiving with the way they number the corners at this track, because there's a slight kink between the first corner and what appears to be 2, but that's actually 3, and then the next straight has the moraine sweep on it, which is just a very slight kink on that straight, which is actually designated turn 4. So it's turn 5 heading down to the bottom there, I think, and then 6 is the kind of blind crest under the bridge. So here we go through the kink onto the back part of the circuit. It's down through Kettle Bottom, I think that is the actual name for this section, and into Canada Corner. Both drivers doing well to get the cars pulled up into the apex there. So quite challenging corner. It doesn't look like much on, just on paper, Canada Corner, but it is much more challenging than it looks. You kind of just come through that section, and the second you get the car straight, you really need to be braking very, very hard to get the car stopped and control it, so you minimize, or clean up the line and get a good exit out of that corner. Use all the road on the exit too. There's a nice bit of curb you can use there. We're looking at the gap with Pillow before. He has been able to close about a second to Guven in second, but Haas has been able to sort of extend away from those two. Now he's got 3.5 seconds up front. So, but Pillow might be able to mount a challenge for P2. We've got where are we at? Sort of about halfway through the race at the moment, so you can make up a bit of ground here during the pit stop cycle. He might be able to do something.
Yeah, he's certainly giving himself half a chance. Radi Vojovic has just come into the pits, by the way, leader of the GT3 jersey. He was questioning, how much fuel do I need? And you do not want to under fuel around this place. Fortunately for him, he's got a big enough gap that he can probably overfuel a bit, and it probably won't lose him the lead. But if you underfuel and have to come in for a second time, then that's a lot of time lost. Pretty much the longest pit lane in all of motorsport, I believe. There's maybe Indianapolis might be a little bit longer, but of course Indianapolis, you're driving down there to about twice the speed. So in terms of pit lane loss, I really think this place is probably the worst in the world. Radi Vojovic, though, back into the track at a slightly longer pit stop than his GT3 colleagues. 18.5 seconds compared to Swain Pole, 15 seconds, and Blood 16.5 seconds. But it's not too bad for him, and he should be able to maintain a lead. He did have about a 5-second lead going into the pits, I believe. And we'll wait to see for McLeod and Stevens to come in for these next couple of laps.
It was a bit odd. He was actually weaving there after coming out of the exit, like he was trying to get tyre temp. Surely he didn't take tyres. I'd be surprised if he did take tyres. The other thing I was just thinking is we've seen quite a few cars off track and a little bit of contact there during that one lap where everything kind of went chaotic for a little bit. I'm not sure if Scott can bring it up on the overlay for us. There might be a few drivers that are going to be a bit concerned with their off-track or incident count.
Yeah, we'll certainly let you know what all the incidents are at the end of the race, which we can't track it in the race for these official series, but keep an eye out on the drivers, because often there's some characteristics where it becomes quite noticeable where drivers suddenly drop off by about a second a lap for no reason seemingly, or leave a massive amount of room for their rivals. Of course, others just carry on pelting it around and keep on risking making contacts, and those are usually the ones who do end up getting disqualified. Lots of drivers into the pits, by the way, in the GT3 category. McLeod, Stevens, Albeeson, Dyson, Hutchinson. In fact, everyone who hadn't pitted already is now into the pits in that class, which kind of shows how they're not marginal fuel, even though that they've got a decent amount to spare. But we are only 26 minutes into this race, so there is only about maybe a 5-minute window where they can come into the pits, and still the GTEs, no sign of them pitting. Radi Vojovic then keeping the lead, 5 seconds ahead of Mitchell McLeod. In fact, actually their pit stops all quite similar, a little bit more fuel for Milan, but not anything too significant. McLeod still ahead of Stevens, but it is closer than it was. Stevens with almost contact between the two of them, and Stevens moves through them. McLeod drops down to 3rd position. The other car you just saw going through there was Filipovic, who's a GTE driver, so don't take too much notice of that. But I think there was a little bit of contact between Stevens and McLeod, and Stevens takes back that 2nd place, which he lost in the early stages.
Yeah, it looked like he was just struggling to get the car stopped there. Be interested to see, have another look. Hopefully it's not another netcode related incident. Yeah, regardless, there's definitely going to be one driver who's not so happy about the outcome of that. So we can have a look here on the replay.
I think there was some netcode again, to be fair.
Yeah, it does look like it. Did look quite odd, the behaviour of the body language of McLeod's car there.
McLeod's now got Albeeson on his side. He's kind of the driver with the momentum at the moment. Albeeson was a little bit detached earlier on in this race, but all of a sudden, maybe even a 2nd place could be on the card. Certainly a 3rd place for him after a little bit of an underwhelming start, at least. I think he dropped a few places, dropped behind the likes of Swinepole and Dyson and Hutchinson. But he's done very well to recover since then. And he's getting 8th place going into turn 1. Perhaps a little bit of damage potentially as well for McLeod after bouncing over those bumps he saw on the replay just moments ago. That can cause quite a bit of splits of damage, which will really compromise your pace around a circuit like this. Just needs to get within a couple of tenths of a second going through turn 3. Wise for the driver ahead, and he might just be a sitting duck here, is McLeod. Albeeson deep into the slipstream. Merc versus Merc pulls to the inside. And this looks as though there's going to be no retaliation put up whatsoever by McLeod. Deep on the brakes though, and he does keep it around the outside, so just preferred that outside line then. Felt a little bit more confident perhaps on the brakes. And Halbeason, not quite with the aggressiveness to really push out his rival there, and he stays in 4th place.
Yeah, that's good driving by McLeod there. He's obviously still confident that he's got the car underneath him, because both those, at the end of both those straights, he didn't feel the need to cover the inside. Into 1 and 5, you saw him just stick to the racing line. This also shows he's got a bit of confidence and respect in the driver that's behind him as well, not to just throw it down the inside and into his door. It's actually been able to pull a little bit of a gap there now, about half a second. Got a GTE car coming through, which might break them up a bit too. McLeod a little bit wide on the exit there. He's definitely not just jumping out of the way for this GTE car.
Oh, this is the race leader, remember, as well, Haase, who eventually gets past, but as he comes into the pits anyway.
Yeah, it's probably a smart move, even if he didn't really need the fuel there, just to maybe stay out of that battle. Especially with the lead that he had built up. So these two continue to battle there into turn 1, and looks like we've got a string of GTE cars here fighting for position. And the top 4 GTE cars have all in the lane, so another 3 drivers have followed Haase onto the lane, so probably expect these guys to dive in.
Yeah, Guven and Pilo have already come into the pits, hence why they're so far down the order. I was a little bit confused for a second. I think they had a spin or something.
Yeah.
As Haase still way ahead of them. You can barely see those other 2 drivers down the order side by side between Pilo now, going down the inside of Guven, and they are still ahead of Schweitz. They were before, still side by side, brilliant racing between these two, and now it's going to be a drag race. This is where we're going to find out which is faster, the Ford or the BMW, and it seems like the BMW has the legs. Maybe just dropping back into the slipstream there is Pilo, though, to a bit of overspeed, get an opportunity at another move going into 5. Glances to the inside, but really felt as though there was maybe a better chance later on in the race. The battle for 3rd and 4th at the moment will turn into the battle for 2nd and 3rd.
Yeah, this is the battle we were sort of hoping we would get to see earlier when Adam was just gradually making that time, and then it seems like through the pit stop cycle he was able to gain a decent chunk over Guven, so he's shown his hand already once there, but not being able to execute the move yet. But you can see through carousel, looks like he's quite strong there. He's going to try and get a really good line through the kink, and try and set something up into Canada corner perhaps. They do have a GT3 car ahead there, which might get involved. Yeah, that GT3 car kind of stole the inside. There was really nowhere for him to go there, so but still trying to keep really close through this section here. He wants to be sitting right under the BMW on the exit of the last corner. You hopefully get a good run onto the straight, and it'd be interesting to see if Guven feels the need to move across and defend the inside into 1. See, Pilo's closing with the draft, and no defense from Guven, so there'll be a battle on the brake pedal into 1.
Moving ahead then is Pilo. Maybe Guven feels so he can come back down the next straight. He wants to be behind at this point, but as you're absolutely right, Brad, how he didn't put up any defence seemingly on the Ford drive. Didn't even try to break the toe or anything. Now he's got to try to get back straight away. 0.2 of a second the gap between car number 5 and car number 2. Looks to the outside. Can he go for the dummy? He I think he was trying to do that, but the track's just waiting now and now makes a mistake. Both of them are running wide. Only
Yeah,
half a second of the gap.
we saw Pillar go to the inside and go defensive into 5 there, so that's the first time I've really seen someone defend that hard. He's pretty determined to try and hang on to this, maybe try and pull a gap over the next lap or so if he can get this BMW out of the draft range. Through the carousel, Pillar was quite strong through here last lap. Both cars being able to maintain a nice tight line through there. Pretty even on the exit. The GTE cars through that kink, you can hold it flat, but you have to get your line pretty much perfect, otherwise you need a small confidence lift to stay off the grass, and these guys seem to have the line through there working really nicely. Gooden does close a little bit there. If he gets a good exit, he might be able to get the toe.
Yeah, he certainly kept himself in draft range at least. 4.5 tenths of a second across the line. And he should have chance later on. Shrivitz, you can see him just behind, and he did close in on these guys on that last lap by about half a second. So he is getting closer, is Lubermeyer, but it might just be a little too late. He also had a very quick pit stop as well, did Shrivitz. 10 seconds compared to pretty much everyone else who was 11 seconds. Or at least in the high 10 seconds, but yeah, Shrivitz very quick. Bouquet in the pits. How did he stay out so long? Currently in 11th position, now just dropping down.
Yeah, he is in the Ford. And we have in these races quite often see the Ford be able to go a little longer.
Sorry, it's his second pit stop, apologies.
Oh, okay. He must have had some misadventures.
Ruins Bouquet's race then, because he was running in the top 8, I believe. I think he was having a good battle with Selesnev, but I mean, he's going to be right at the bottom, maybe even in the GT3 pack now.
It's probably worth cutting back to the battle for P3 in the GT3s at the moment. There we are. So McLeod, he must have made an error late on the lap because they were really close, like 3 or 4 tenths away from each other. But it's now gone out to 1.2 seconds. So must have had a small error in the last sector.
Yeah, lost 7 tenths of a second on that last lap. Did McLeod, so yeah, probably made an error, and now if he has damage, as it seems as though he has, because remember, McLeod was very fast earlier on. It looked like he had the edge on Stevens, but really lapping quite a bit slower than the top runners now, and he's going to be able to put more pressure on Halbeason ahead. Swinepole as well, only 3.5 seconds behind as well, so it cannot be too leisurely to the end of this race. We've got 7.5 minutes to go, plus however long it takes for Sven Haase to finish his final lap as well. And also we've got Filipovic just ahead of those drivers trying to make his way up, as we've got side by side for P2, and it's Gruben moves back ahead then of Pilo going into turn 5, and that time Pilo not defending. He defended a couple of laps ago, put his car in the middle of the circuit. This time didn't feel like he wanted to. I don't know if this is some kind of tactics, they want to be behind one another going on to the last lap, but certainly no interest in maintaining that position, or maybe he was just surprised that the BMW went for the move.
Yeah, you can see the body language of the car through those last couple of corners there. They're definitely starting to turn up the aggression. Getting down to just over about 6.5 minutes left. So it's definitely go time to try and sort out this scrap for P2. Hopefully we'll have a battle right to the end. see Pillar closing the run down to Canada corner. Backs out of it, but gets a great run through the apex. Mid corner speed was mega from the forward there, and he's going to try and set up a move coming onto the straight. So Guven might have to go defensive here. He saw what happened earlier when he decided not to cover the inside. Is he going to come across? He's creeping, but doesn't move. Pillow takes the line again. So it's interesting to see him not cover that line. Because as we see, it's the same outcome as before, but maybe he wants to test this out a little bit before it gets to the last lap. To see, he's really trying to sort out, which position he wants to be in.
And now Schreibert's really getting close to these guys. Only 1.3 seconds behind, another half-second gain on that last lap. He should be able to catch them. I was ruling him out a few moments ago, but he's right in there now as Pilote going defensive this time against Guven. Is he going to get a better exit there? The BMW driver certainly could get the power down better, but no opportunity into 6. And this is a proper three-way battle for second, third, and fourth positions at the moment. Got another 10 seconds back to Schmick, so certainly not going to be any influence from Lubermeyer in the car number 3. And this is pretty much the closest battle out of the whole circuit. We've also got Smith versus Bouquet actually just going side by side as we speak. Here they are. Bouquet, of course, with 2 pit stops, a long second pit stop as well, 18 seconds. So something very unusual happening there for Christoph. That we're going to be able to have a chat with him later on, but it'll be very interesting to find out what happened to that second pit stop. 6.5 seconds behind Sorrell, who's been in the wars himself in this race. Doubt there's going to be any change between those two, as Pilote and Guven again going side by side. This must be going down into, apologies, the time screen just a little bit wrong for me there, but still Pilote only just ahead, and this time in fact Schreibert just struggling to stick with those guys in the second half of the lap. He's fallen back to a second behind.
Yeah, if they continue to battle like this, he's definitely going to be able to get there though, and if he does, he could be in a better position with tyres, because these guys have been scrapping now for several laps, and whenever you're going defensive and taking those tighter lines, you're definitely asking more of the tyre. So tyre life over 45 minutes is not a huge issue with these cars, but if you are using them a lot more, and Schweipert has been able to sort of just cruise along by himself for a good portion of the race, so he may have been able to save a little bit of tyre compared to these guys in front. You can see he's starting to close up a bit there now. He's only just about a second, just ducked under a second. It's a fantastic corner, that, so much fun. The car definitely wants to eject you out into the fence on the left there, but it's if you get the line right through there, similar to the kink that they're about to approach after the carousel here, really fun and rewarding corners when you get them right. So the Ferrari's holding quite a good line through the exit of the carousel there. Very, very tiny lift through the kink. He's still right on and around that second mark behind. BMW's definitely good in a straight line. Just needs to be a little bit closer to get the sort of the assistance of the draft.
Going into the last couple of laps now, Haas moves on to another lap, and he's just going to force 2 more laps. It's going to be very marginal. This could cause issues for some of the drivers out here, because I think we're going to get 1 more lap after this by literally a handful of seconds. If Haas really wanted to, with the gap that he's got, he could probably lift off in this lap and just end it on this one. But if we do have those extra 2 laps, then could be quite an issue for some of the drivers out on the circuits. Closed in a little bit actually on these late stages. Smith has now been caught by Denker. That's the battle for 5th place. And also Weaver catching up to Yali. That's about for 10th and 11th. In fact, I think Yali just got ahead of Weaver. I believe Yali did not take this, didn't take qualifying. Yeah, he started down in 22nd place with Yali. So really impressive performance. Up at 12th place. I believe that's more places gained than anyone out on the field. So congratulations to him. And he should be able to keep behind Weaver, although he has got a bit of rear wing damage right now.
Yeah, it's always impressive drive if you can make up those kind of positions. We have seen a few other drivers strike trouble, but keeping it clean is always the best way to advance your way through the field. And despite that little bit of damage, looks like he's being able to do that quite effectively. See, Haas is really no pressure at all. He's got over 10 seconds lead. Been a pretty faultless drive, really. We haven't seen much of him because he's been by himself for a big portion of the race. And he, yeah, does force the extra lap just. So he's obviously having a good time out there and just wants to press on and put in the extra lap. So we'll see how Pillow and Guven go, because they're very, very close to Pillow just holding on into one. And Guven's had plenty of opportunities to kind of rehearse this move for the last lap. Let's see if he tries to make the move down into 5 here. Both drivers got a pretty tidy exit. Tucked in, trying to get the draft. A little bit of traffic ahead, which hopefully doesn't become a factor later in the lap. Pillow goes defensive, covers the inside. He's already learnt that lesson from earlier in the race.
This is now or never for Guven if he's going to get second place. He seemed to be quite happy to lose track position earlier on, believing they could bring it back later on. But he's really running out of corners now. Maybe the corner could be his last chance. We can see he's 0.6 of a second behind. He needs to be much closer than that going into the kink if he's going to have a chance at a last gasp move. Still, we've got Radi Bojovic leading the way in the GT3 class. Seemingly there's going to be no changes there. Schmidt still under pressure from Denker for P5 and P6, but this is the battle I think we're going to pay attention to the end, along with watching car number 1, Sven Haase, who has absolutely dominated tonight. He got pole position by a few tenths of a second. If that was comfortable, and this race has been just as comfortable as well. Sven Haase approaches the line, and he is going to win the GTE class here at Road America. Congratulations to Sven Haase. Adam Pilo should be able to hang on against Guven then across the line. And yeah, Guven making a mistake, I think, just through those final couple of corners. Good driving here, great duel between those who kept them thoroughly entertained throughout the event. Schmeek will hold off Denker. These two glued together for much of the second half of the race. But the Porsche never having the overspeed to overtake in the end. And we've got some of the GT3s across the line. We've got Hal Beaton and McLeod across the line, but 2 of the GT3s, Radi Bojovic and Stevens, who are the top 2 places in the GT3 class, yet to cross the line. So they'll have a little bit of a victory lap to themselves. But just a quick word, Brad, on Sven Haase. I mean, that was absolutely domination. I mean, he clearly had a few tenths of a second over the rest of the field, but very much kept himself cool during the traffic processes and didn't seem to falter at all during the 45 minutes.
Yeah, I think what we saw there was a great display of being able to get away at the rolling start and then just get consistent laps together and not have to worry about what's happening in your mirrors. As far as the best times go, that there's a handful of drivers really close together on their fastest lap time, but Haas was able to just consistently reel off very similar laps for the whole race, which is why he was able to sort of eke out that 10-second plus gap. So yeah, fantastic driving from him. And you can see we've got Radovic crossing the line there, and a bit of a celebratory swerving. Stevens follows him in second. So then I think that rounds out all the drivers across the line now. But yeah, great battle from Pilo and Guven. Not really sure what happened on the last lap there. They were still quite close together, but hopefully there wasn't any contact or anything that we didn't see. But yeah, Guven dropped about a second there, right towards the tail end of the lap, unfortunately.
Yes, yeah, probably just ran wide, maybe trying to get as close as he possibly could, but no fruition in the end. So the results: Sven Haase wins out 10 seconds ahead of Adam Pilo. A Hacken Guban in third place. Then it's Lubomir Schreibitz, Andreas Smick, Ruben Denker, Javi Villa, Alexei Seleznev, Dylan Pereira, Yasmin Yali, Jose Rodriguez, Marco Weaver, Joe Holton, Tony Sorrell, Sean Canavan, Jordi Agriel Rivera, and then also Christophe Bouquet as well finished on the lead lap. 1 lap down was Yanis Filipovic, and then the retirees were Daniel Smith, Carlos Barreto, Adalton Morea, Neil Pearson, and David Games. In the GT3s, Milan Radivojevic won out ahead of Scott Stevens. Then Bern Halbeson rounded out the podium. Good drive from Halbeson, actually. Had to make a few overtakes up there. Behind that was Mitchell McLeod. He was running in second place for much of the race, but just got a tap round, we believe, a little bit of netcode, and that really compromised his pace from then on. Then behind that was Jacques Swainpole, Mark Hutchinson, Andrew Dyson, and Jack Flood. Bradley Anderson, also a retiree in that field. In fact, the only retiree in that field. So very good driving from the GT3 drivers out there today. Sometimes we have some interviews with drivers, I believe, and I think we are going to have a chat with Milan Radivojevic in the commentary box. And Milan, congratulations out there. Looked quite simple for you, although you did lose the lead on the race start, but then they managed to get it back very quickly. Just take us through that first lap from your perspective.
Yeah, thank you guys. Well, I first joined with a wrong car or wrong class. I wanted to do a GT race, but I missed judge the clickings. So I joined with a Mercedes, and then I had no setup. So one guy from a race was good and decided to share me his setup. So it was okay. Then in the first lap, I lost the lead because I had like a bad exit of last corner. But I was like able to get the lead back in first lap, and after that it was just a Sunday drive.
Absolutely. Scott Stevens, though, seemed to be closing a little bit near the end. We saw you on the chat saying how he was closing a little bit. Were you just relaxing a little bit, just managing the gap, or do you think maybe he perhaps had a little bit better tyre life in the at the end of the race?
Yeah, I think he had better tires. At one point, I hit a bump at the exit of turn 5 after the curb. I don't know if that damaged the floor or something, but after that, I dropped my pace. Also, my tires were not great, and yeah, I was pushing at the end, but he was catching me. I don't know.
And next week, we visit, just going up the schedule right now, we go to Road Atlanta. So not Road America, Road Atlanta we'll head to next week. Can we expect to see you around in this splits again? And I mean, what are your thoughts on that circuit?
Yeah, I will be there because that's a good preparation for the Petit Le Mans, which is coming in like 2 weeks or something. So yeah, I will be there. I don't know the car, maybe in the GT, maybe in the GT3 again. I will decide that later.
So we certainly wish you the best of luck, Milan. Before we let you go, is there anyone you'd like to thank?
Yeah, I would like to thank my team, Radicals Online, and our sponsors, GRT, Arma Clothing, Six Sideways, Turn Racing, Simmortal, and Crimefield Simulations for providing us great liveries and all that stuff.
Well, thanks for having a chat with us, Milan, and hopefully we'll see you back on Apex Racing TV very soon.
Yeah. See you guys.
So that was Milan Radivojevic, right there, the winner of the GT3 class. By the way, just a bit of a reference in terms of the incidents out there. Guvan actually had 16 incidents, so one more and he would have got disqualified. Schreivitz also with 15 incidents. Pereira was on 15. Disqualified was Carlos Barreto with 17. Daniel Smith also with 17 in the end. And quite a few drivers were quite close to the edge. Filipovic as well on 16, and Hutchinson as well on 16. So drivers really were running it quite on the edge there, Brad. But I mean, once again, Road America just providing great racing. That battle as well for P2 was absolutely enthralling. And I think it's just the fact that you got that slipstream effect. Even if you are a little bit slower than the driver ahead, using a bit of tactics, and you can really battle them fair and square.
Yeah, I think that was a good demonstration of how the BOP adjustments for this season have seemed to have really evened up the field on some of the tracks at least, but because the BMW and the Ford was really, really closely matched there. You could see whichever car was behind was able, to get, as long as they got a good exit, were able to get a run and then get alongside to set up a move. So if it remains like that, then that's going to provide some great racing through onto some of the other tracks. Obviously, Road America, that run down the back straight there, that will come into play a little bit with the hard braking area downhill into the chicane. So definitely looking forward to seeing how that race unfolds, and probably looking forward to some big participation as well with the Petit Le Mans following on the weekend after that event too. So yeah, and what a great track Road Atlanta is too. Another great example of that classic sort of American road course with very little runoff, punishes you quite drastically for mistakes, and narrow undulation, sort of blind crest, change of direction on or just after crest. There seems to be a lot of that across the American circuits, and I really do enjoy those tracks for it.
Yeah, definitely. It should be great fun when we visit there next week. Of course, on Apex Racing TV, we'll once again be broadcasting this split of the IMSA iRacing IMSA Sportscar Series. Hopefully, you've enjoyed this broadcast. Of course, certainly do like this video, and if you wouldn't mind, of course, subscribe to the channel as well. Check out our Twitch and Facebook and Instagram platforms as well. And of course, we've got plenty of other broadcasts coming up. And also, check out the iRacing Esports Network, because we broadcast on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday nights, European nights, that is, on that channel. So certainly do check out that as well. But for now, from me, from Brad, and from Scott as well, we're going to say goodbye, and we'll see you next time.